Tonight's episode of Board Chitless is sponsored by The Game Steward. The Game Steward is an online game store offering Kickstarter board games out of print and imported games at reasonable prices. It's time to play.
And welcome back to another episode of Board Chitless. It's a full house this week. I'm Leki, and this week I'm joined by
Sam.
Jackie.
Dave.
And Tristan.
And this week we've been playing Empires of the Void 2. So this week we had a massive 5-way romper in space with Empires of the Void 2, which is a area control game based in the outer reaches of the universe, where you each play a different faction of aliens with some unique abilities, and you're exploring planets or attacking planets, laying down bases and cities, and generally trying to achieve some victory points by completing random objectives and getting one over your mates. How did everyone enjoy this game?
I quite enjoyed it. It's not my usual thing that I'd go for, to be honest. And when there's a lot to take in, to be honest. When the rules are being explained to me, I had that moment that you see in TV and movies where the person's voice just fades out, and then in your head is just random music. Because it was just like so much to take in. I was just like, right, I'll just have to see it played, really. And then I ended up being first player, so I was like, right, well, scrap that plan. Just have a go and see how it goes. But it was good. I quite liked it. It's not my usual, but yeah, I quite liked it.
Yeah, it was an enjoyable game. I at one point I described it to Tristan as Eclipse Light, and then he looked at me and went, "Really?" And I was like, "Kind of." It kind of scratched that itch a little bit of flying around space, upgrading tech slightly, and then just trying to fight people. But it was nowhere near as complicated. It played a lot quicker, although with 5 of us, it did kind of grind to a halt once or twice. But yeah, it was just a really fun game. The artwork's beautiful, and the flavor text on some of the cards kind of drags you in. It's very minimal, but you do feel like you're telling some stories.
Yeah, it's more implied than a full description, isn't it? It lets you sort of write your own story with the flavor text. It's not over the top. It's just enough to sort of sow the seeds of what's going on in the world, and
a lot of blanks to be filled with your imagination.
Yeah, a lot of voids to fill.
Ah, exactly. It's the second version of Empires of the Void from Ryan Laukat. Did anyone play version 1, Dave?
Never even heard of it. Never even. What is the one?
Yeah.
Is there?
This is number 2.
I know, but have you ever heard of the first one? Did you ever see it? Because you're quite a Laukat fan.
I've become a Laukat fanboy, but only later on in life.
So you've not seen the original?
So I've not played the original, but as soon as I knew he was doing a space faring,
It's out there.
it is out. It was out there. It was Kickstarter, so I think it's all gone now. But so this is what's left. So this is after years of retooling and tweaking and revisiting and whatnot. So I don't know how the first one played, but I really enjoyed this. It's it's another sort of Laukat game. So all of his are of a style, which means victory points and finishing perhaps more quickly than you'd expect. Maybe like the end game sort of creeps up on you. Beautifully presented, interesting. I didn't agree with Leki necessarily about it being Eclipse Light, but I can see why he said that with the, like you say, there's the tech tracks and building things and stuff.
Snack Eclipse incredibly light.
Diet Eclipse.
Yeah. It's the 20-gram version.
I think it's got more storytelling than Eclipse because there's more events, and because of the world, because of the fixed map and the planet names and things, it's got its own identity. So you have like events that occur that feel like they're happening, whereas in Eclipse it's just all out war and violence, and every tech you get is to make your ship more killer. Whereas in this you can get techs which actually help you build things or help you hide from things, because there's big space tentacle monsters in the middle of the map that you have to roll to get past. What did you think of those, Dave?
Never encountered one.
Yeah,
it didn't really impact the game.
By the time...
Did it at least make you choose a different path to go down?
I just didn't go that way until I had... you can get like cloaking technology, and that will... you basically just bypass everything, don't you?
Yeah.
So, and it was the same in the other game that we played. Just didn't go near him. I think you
two,
did.
We had a 2-player game, didn't we? On Monday,
We tried it out on Monday. But yeah, just didn't go near them. I don't know. Did they add much? They just had a tech tree, like a tech, really. Because to me, you're just wasting time trying to get past them otherwise, especially with my dice rolls.
You're risking a command point, aren't you? It's like an action point, basically.
Yeah.
It's a nice early game push your luck mechanic before you really like start taking up and getting some of those extra buffs. But like you said, the map's so big anyway, you could just go around it.
I kind of felt like the map's a bit small. Like the planets are big planets. Like each planet takes up a lot of board space. There's only 8.
I think that's to encourage player interaction because we played it with 5 tonight. So
I'm not having a go.
No, I'm just saying. You said you thought it was small.
It's tight, isn't it? It does.
Is, yeah.
Like, yeah.
In Eclipse, it's a few rounds before you even discover each other, isn't it? And there's some people might be so far across the other side of the map, it's going to take you even longer to get there. Whereas this, you're almost directly connected from the outset. I mean,
there was
Sam and
conflict
Leki
from the beginning.
they had the war of the ages between them, and I think I managed to sneak around the top end of the map without much bother until you and me sort of went head to head towards the end of the game. And Jackie, did you fight anyone, or you just nicked some uninhabited worlds, right?
Yeah, my strategy was to make friends, and I found a planet right at the beginning. Actually, it was the first planet ever to get uncovered, and it was 3 victory points.
The one with the hidden city.
Yes, the hidden city. Yeah.
That was like the first go, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Like straight out of the game.
Yeah.
Victory points, plenty.
Yeah. So
That's good.
It basically put a big target on its head. So Dave went after it, and then I went after it, and it was something to go and get straight away.
yeah, so that pushed me forward a little bit, which gave me some encouragement. And then I just sort of hopped around, got all the unexplored little planets, and then just tried to make friends with the bigger planets while everyone else was attacking them. Because I just got the impression that if you attack the planet, it's not worth as much as if you are friendly to them.
Well, yeah. Oh, go on, Dave.
I was going to say, like, optimally, if you can invade a planet and then make friends with them, like that's worth the most victory points. But it's really hard to do. Like
That's what I was doing, wasn't it? Those planets in the corner, I invaded them, then put influence on them, and then Leki just came in and took them over.
That's exactly what happened with me. Like I invaded the planet and was going to get influence on it, but Jackie came along, made friends with them, and I couldn't get the influence back after that. So I kind of left it. But yeah, it's difficult to do, but it is the optimal way to make the victory points from 1 or 2 planets.
Yeah, and also the guys in between spaces, the space monsters and the asteroid, the tentacles,
The pointless things.
It didn't. Yeah, I was going to mention, because they do seem a bit pointless, because I found a wormhole on a planet and it sort of connected both ends of the whole galaxy together, so we didn't even have to actually encounter any of those things either.
I quite like the design of the map. There's plenty of paths around all the planets, and although like Dave's saying, it's a large board, although it is quite. I wouldn't say it was too busy, but it's really easy to see where you can and can't get around and what's going on there.
That was the point I was going to make before. When there's 5 players, you've got the entire map. When there's less players, it has like you put these Sarkeen Regency tokens down on a whole bunch of the planets, like more planets if the less players that there are, and it sort of funnels you down into shrinking the map so that you still have the player interaction at whichever level. And if it's less than 5 players, if you go for one of these Sarkeen Regencies, they're like AI baddies that you have to fight against that are really, really hard. So it's a nice way of blocking off the map effectively, but also if you do chance it, you have a big battle and it's worth quite a few extra victory points. Yeah. That didn't come up tonight, but I thought that was a nice mechanic for sort of using a static board and keep giving it a variety each time. Because I will admit, when I saw the board is beautiful, but I thought, well, Eclipse has that edge in variation because you drawing all these hexes, you're exploring as you go, whereas this is a fixed map. But actually, the way the planets come out every time is different, and at the lower player counts as well, you get that variation in shut up.
Yeah.
The planets have different events with them from game to game as well. Like they're going to be slightly different every game. The planets that you bring out, there's going to be a couple that are different, which I think there is some variability there. I don't know how much.
Yeah.
These expansions.
The way that they play and the planets are set up, it's just kind of begging for some expansion material, isn't it? Really.
You get I think something like 7 events per planet, and each of those events will only appear once in a game, and they are quite game changing. Like the one that me and Dave played had this. We got the intergalactic fungal infection, and it meant that my ship's got this horrible spreading fungus, which started eating away at them. But then I realised I could go and give it to Dave, so we went and had this scrap, and he got it. So all of our universe
didn't affect your ships at all. You dice roll because you rolled dice, don't you? And none of them. And then all my ships started blowing up.
We found a fungal patch that cured it, but yours got ripped to bits.
So oddly enough, the planet that it came from didn't find its way into tonight's game.
Well, yeah, I think there was a bit of jiggery pokery with
bit
that
of
event removed
jiggery-pokery.
at the start.
I think as soon as we pulled that event, we were like, no, that's awful, absolutely awful. But actually, it was kind of funny, wasn't it? It didn't.
It could have been really fun in 5 players trying to spread it to
I
every
think
single
the
one.
only reason it was an issue was because of events like you had to retreat to that planet. That was the only place you could go. In a normal game, just you won't go to that planet anymore once the fungus was there. You just wouldn't go there.
Should we talk about combat? Have we covered that, Sam, about hitting people and then they just retreat? You don't actually kill them?
Yeah, we haven't, but yes, let's. I was, as we said earlier, I was scrapping with Leki quite a bit throughout the game.
Definitely, you were scrapping with me. I was completely innocent.
By which I mean I sat there like a duck and just got shot at
Yeah.
repeatedly. But that was to do with one of the mechanics I like, and which will lead on to the combat. But one of the mechanics I liked was the way you can control and influence a planet as two separate victory point paths. So I got control of the planet by attacking it first, then built up the influence. Then Leki came in and took control of the planets, but it left me with the influence there.
Yeah.
The only difficulty I had then was I couldn't then go back and take control without losing all of my own influence. So you kind of had to just sacrifice that and move away from it, leave it alone, because you just lose too many points.
Yes, but it's a nice way of managing the real estate of the board, isn't it? So
it is, yeah.
one
That's what I
player
say. I quite like that.
Yeah.
That I had to sort of weigh up whether I try and get those 2 victory points back, but lose the 3 that I was getting already. So you just move away.
Then it meant that the mercenaries could just chase you around the map and try and kick you off
and
a load of planets.
that's where the combat came in, because the combat's very heavily influenced by the recruits that you can get throughout the game, which are different mercenaries or agents. They all have their own little special abilities. So you get those from influencing planets becoming allies, and then you can actually recruit the people from those planets. Now, I'd recruited some weak agents that weren't very great, but it was part of an ongoing strategy I had.
Yeah.
Then Leki came over with his ships full of heavily armed mercenaries, landed on my planets, and just completely decimated everything.
You got quite lucky though, because I think the agents that you had, so like the particular species they had with you, reduced my dice pool from like 6 down to 1. But then I just happened to roll a 6.
And they were so powerful.
And they were super
still,
powerful,
there was nothing I could do about it.
Yeah, exactly. I think it was just a little bit unlucky there. But there's a lot of quite interesting mechanics throughout all the different species, and there's so many of them to choose from in any game. There's about 9 on the board, 8 on the board at any one time, plus 1 or 2 bonus ones like knocking about.
There's different allies for every planet, isn't there, pretty much? So it's however many planets you're playing with.
Yeah, it's good. And then, but it's quite expensive to recruit. So I think some of the cheaper ones cost them about 3 credits per alien,
You
but then
start
some
off
of
with
them go
your
up to about
home.
7. Yeah.
Start off with your home ones, don't you? Which cost 2, I think. And then the basic ones that I was trying to get was 3 because it was a special reward I was going for. And then the ones you were getting were cost 7, so that it's a heavy investment.
Did in terms of with the mechanic of choosing turn order, so there's an active player per round who gets to choose if you're going to move and attack something, or if you're going to use an action card, or if you're going to use diplomacy, and then everyone else can either follow that action for free, pay an extra command point, so an extra action point really, to do something different, or they can refresh, so get all their action points back, get a bit of money back. Did anyone feel that at any point that kind of like locked them out of a turn, or that it kind of changed their strategy quite dramatically from round to round, or are you just happy to kind of follow on what everyone else was doing?
I liked it, only because the last podcast that I'd done was we were talking about Civilization, and we'd mentioned about Warhammer Quest, the card game, at the time, and they have similar mechanics there. But yeah, I do like this one. It's more like a Civilization style where you're not locked out from any action. you might have to refresh, whatever. But you can do any of the actions at any time almost. So it doesn't lock you out, but you've got the chance of getting the free ones, or you sort of sacrifice to go for the more powered ones.
Yeah.
So I still like that mechanic. I think it's really good.
You do occasionally get sort of locked out, if you like, but you can just refresh. I mean, you're going to have to refresh anyway. Yeah. And it's not like it's a bad thing. You get loads of money, you get all your command points back, you get all your cards back. There has been a couple of times where you're sort of stuck with a refresh when you're the active player, and that's not good, like by any stretch, because everybody else gets like really cheap free actions, do whatever they want. And that has happened a couple of times.
That's kind of down to planning, though, isn't it?
That is poor planning.
I really like this, like I did with Civilization and New Dawn, because you never feel like it's a wasted turn. Like you said, even a refresh that's like you say, get your money back, your cards back, and your actions back, and that still feels good, especially if you've leveled up a bit and you're actually getting more money than you would originally because you've built more cities or bases or whatever. But you never, even if it's effectively a miss a turn, it's not really missing a turn because you're still accumulating a load of resources and stuff. And I really like games that offer you this, so even if it's not the optimal move yet,
just make sure you refresh before you're the active player. Like if the player before you is active, refresh. If you need to refresh, do it now.
Because, you get punished, don't you? Because not only are you wasting your turn on a refresh, you then... It's a specific action called Scavenge, which allows the active player to get all the stuff back, but then it makes everyone else able to do any action they want at a much cheaper rate. And I love that. I think it's a really clever sort of balancing mechanism. And I also love that you can capitalize. You could get 2 or 3 or even 4 turns in a row without refreshing if you plan it all up front. And if everything goes to plan, of course, and you don't get invaded or whatever.
Which you will.
Which
you very small board.
But I'm really starting to appreciate that, where these games are. We talked about lockout then, but I don't really feel 100% like it does lock you out, because in the worst case scenario, you're still having a beneficial move.
Yeah, I mean, there's been plenty of games that we've played where somebody's done a move, and then personally I feel like, oh, now my plan is ruined for this next turn, and I can't do what I want to do because they've took a resource or took something off me. But with this, I didn't feel like I was ever in trouble. It's like, right, well, I know what I'm going to do, and if I can't do it this turn, I can possibly do it next turn, or if I can just refresh, get more resources. So I was never frustrated, as it were, because I couldn't do something that I really wanted to do.
What do we think about the art?
It's lovely, isn't it?
Yeah, and Ryan did it himself, which obviously this whole game is a massive labour of love for him.
I'm disgusted by the amount of talent that this man seems to have.
Yeah.
Not one stick figure in sight, is there?
Ridiculous.
It makes it feel like a more personal thing for him, really, because it's like he's done the design and the art. And in the book as well, it shows you how he progressed with the art-wise, how he started off, and then how much better he's got just from, keeping trying and stuff like that. And it does show, really. I think did he do Near and Far as well? Yeah. And that is great as well. Just, as an artist myself, looking at colour compositions, colour theory, stuff like that, he really knows what he's doing.
Let's be honest, though, those miniatures are rubbish.
Well, he did the miniatures himself as well.
Well, maybe just stick to standees in future, Ryan, because, they're not good.
Well, apparently he struggled to find anyone to do them for him, so he just went ahead and went at it. And I don't think they're the best miniatures I've ever seen, but if you compare something like Eclipse...
I think the problem is the standard of everything else is so high, the contrast that is just so noticeable. Like, on the table, on the box, like... It's like they're from a different game. It's like they're from Eclipse.
I'm going to give him a pass for that, because sculpting is one of the hardest things.
We will let him off.
You could do. Yes. It is very difficult. So he's done well to make some convincing looking spaceships that do suit the art of the alien as well. You can tell who they belong to.
One of the first things Dave said when we were setting it up, or we both agreed, was we set up the board, which takes a long time. It does. There's like 4 pages of setup or something, and it's different each game, so you have to arrange the decks and all that stuff. and we had the board in front of us, and we were like, oh, it's busy. There's too much going on. It's really hard to parse, at first glance, what's happening here. Then in about 3 turns, we had it down.
Yeah,
and
that
we were
was
just
that was going in cold,
yeah,
wasn't it?
That was learning the rules as we play, which we swore we'd never do.
Yeah.
And then we insisted, let's just learn it on the hop. And and we picked it up, and the actual gameplay is streamlined and easy to pick up. And the board, as busy as it looks to a first timer sitting in front of it, within a few rounds you'll be on top of it. I think. I don't know what you guys
There's
think?
not actually that much on it. I think that a lot of it is just art, and I think on the board the planets do look beautiful, like really beautiful. And you've got a victory point track down one side, which doesn't intrude into everything. You've got space for the planets, and the planets themselves are interchangeable because they're on tiles, and the tiles will support the cards, which will then go on it, and which will support your ships. And then at the top, you've got the turn track, the action track, sorry. So beyond that, there's not too much going on the board. I think it's more about the art and a bit just sort of drawing you in. It looks a bit busy, but when you know which each bit is, there's not that much going on there, I don't think. I don't know what you guys feel.
Yeah, the game itself is quite easy to follow once you've got your head around the rules. So I think it was the first round or two, so about 5 turns? 10 turns?
10 to 5
in
turns.
total, and I'd got a good idea of a grasp on what most of your actions involved. Then there was just 1 or 2 things like, when do I put resources down to build stuff, and where do they go? So for learning the first game, it was real easy to pick up. Really, I enjoyed it. Was one thing I was a little bit not worried, but after playing Above and Below and Near and Far, there was some beautiful story-driven games. You get a little storybook, and you whenever you do particular actions, you get to look up an entry and then read out a bit of story and resolve it. This game's missing that, and I was worried that it'll feel like it was missing a certain part of the Ryan Laukat experience, but it didn't really. It all felt very tight. The mechanics were nice and balanced. There wasn't anything that seemed completely unfair. We didn't get any kind of crazy fungal disease burning across the galaxy. I don't know if that might have made it feel a bit broken or something. But it just felt like a really tight, really fun game to play. Definitely on the bigger experience side, it took us about 2 hours to play it in the end with learning the rules.
Closer to 3, I think.
Yeah, it was a bigger game, but not an overly complex one. It's not too far out there.
It was a 3-hour game compared to a 5 or 6 hour Eclipse, wasn't it?
Yeah.
With 5 guys.
Yeah. But just to touch back on the theme, I think the theme really comes through. We've only played it twice, but I know Measle 3 is like a big industrial planet. Loads of corporate espionage going on, and that just comes from the cars. There's no storybook or anything. We know that Emrock's Endor, isn't it? But with a fungal plague. That forever that planet to me will be one to avoid. Just in case the plague's about. So the theme does come through.
Yeah.
Without having to have that sort of story. So it's still sort of the Ryan Laukat experience sort of thing, if you like.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it feels nice and story driven, but quite elegantly done, and it feels quite effortless as well, because you just read out a little bit of flavour text, and then everyone kind of is like, oh yeah, that's nice, and then you get back to it.
Yeah, because that does sort of break the flow, like to cite Seafall. A lot of the time, one of us will be reading from the book, and everyone else is not listening. Just sort of because it breaks the flow so much.
Story time, you call it.
Story time, and it's is it though? Because no one's listening. I'm just reading to myself. A stupid accent.
Everyone's trying to listen, but also they're planning their next moves, and it does, because there's so much going on with this game in terms of how many actions you're allowed to take, and if you want to do the cheaper action that the leader's taken, or if you want to try and spend a bit more, then it's nice just to listen to a quick introductory rule, a bit of flavour text to it, and then move on from that. Like you're saying, it's not pulling you away from what you're actually trying to get done too much.
I think those story text games work better with lower numbers, because, like you say, with 5 of us we get quite chatty, and it takes focus for everyone to know what's going on, and the second someone starts going on with themselves over 5 paragraphs worth of text, you can see the shutters come down, or in people's eyes, or they just start talking amongst themselves and stuff. So limiting it to just one line of flavor text on a card, or 2 lines, I think is probably optimal. I like those story games. I like the idea of them and everything, but the execution just never feels quite right. It does halt the flow a little bit. I think the only way you could combat that is have every couple of sentences have a game thing happen. Something that the players have to choose, or action.
See, I did like them. I feel like I've had enough of them now.
You'd love Tales of the Arabian Nights.
That was one of the first games me and Jackie got, was Tales, and I did. But then, like, stuff like Mice and Mystics, where everything you do near enough, you have to go and read the book. Oh, stop it! And the gameplay. I mean, the gameplay was boring anyway. It was like I was glad to go and read the book.
You're talking about Mice and
Mystics, yeah. But no, I think it's good that he's not just a one-trick pony. Like he's doing different games, and the theme and the story is coming through in different ways. He's a great storyteller.
Yeah. One tip though is, if you are going to play it with your friends, set it up before they get there, because it takes about half an hour to get everything out.
Yeah, the setup's huge, but I think for a game that's complex, or not, maybe complex isn't the right word, but this that has this much variety and sort of depth to it, you have to have a big setup, I think.
Yeah, it does look overwhelming when all the bits are coming out and you think, what's this? Oh God, what's that? It's like, and there's more coming, and then the rules are getting explained, and your mind's full of what you were talking about. But then it does make it easier once you see it, and then it clicks. It's fine. Yeah.
One issue I did have, surprise, surprise, was with the combat.
We should mention Dave actually did win, by the way. So
Quite handsome.
yeah.
Well, no, it was actually quite tight, wasn't it? Tristan was only 2 points behind.
Yeah.
And then what? Sam was about 3 points behind Tristan. Jackie was 1 point behind Sam, and then Leki was last. But the combat, it's simple, and which is what you want in a game like this, because there is quite a lot of combat. It's just a dice roll, add a modifier. You're rolling a number of dice equal to whatever's on the things, and you're just picking the highest dice. The problem for me comes with the winner just gets a victory point, and the loser has to retreat, but it doesn't lose any units. It's not satisfying, because all it becomes then is like a push-pull. So you'll take a planet, and then if that person leaves that planet, just go and get it back, or go and do something else. Yeah. But it's never like, there's never like a decisive victory, which I suppose in one way is good, because you don't ever want to be out of the game, but it's just not satisfying. Maybe it's not crunchy.
Lost a recruit.
Yeah, maybe something. Yeah,
I get what you're saying, because it is, like you say, it's push and pull, and you have to really time those combats. But it also means once you take a planet, you have to bolster the defenses. So it was really funny watching Sam and Leki just constantly swapping planets, and like, oh, you've moved off, right? I'll take that.
They were getting 3 victory points basically, weren't they? Which is a sort of,
and that's a valid.
It's like an
strategy,
alliance
maybe.
in a way. Victory
Let's
point
just attack
alliance.
each other every turn.
To run to us, Sam.
But yeah, well, that affected our whole end game, or at least my end game, was our little battle for the planet that Jackie discovered, that you conquered, and then I came and took. And then it was, how much resources do I invest in keeping this planet that's worth 3 victory points? And that completely fed into my last couple of rounds, was defending that, bolstering it, and defending the planet I had nearby. Whereas
that was my sort of goal as well, wasn't it?
It was your bluff, right? Because you could have.
I kept my forces near it, threatening it, but I was actually.
But you were working on another objective,
else, and then I went,
But I think that works, because if you wipe someone else out of the game, like in Eclipse, where you can completely like destroy them, you can wipe them off the map, then you've got someone who's played a 5-hour game and you have to sit out the last hour or whatever, and it's not as satisfying as an experience as being able to still be in it right to the end, which I think most of us were in this game.
And it wasn't. So like we said, victory points weren't that far apart, really. Maybe Leki.
I started the game badly though. I got a bit confused with one of the rules. Sorry. So it's not the game's fault. It's just me being a bit slow, and I got confused with how certain action cards worked. So I kind of burnt a few turns trying to get to planets I didn't need to be.
Behind.
I wasn't too far behind. No. I think
it's quite tight.
I think it probably slipped more like 6 or 7 because where I didn't complete any of the Empire cards. So the Empire cards are just like extra objectives to fulfill, like build all your bases or have a certain amount of resources.
They're kind of what you want to go for, really.
Yeah, but they give you a good 2 or 3 VPs each, and you've got plenty of opportunities in the game to get more. And I just didn't really satisfy those. And I think you guys managed to get 1 or 2 of them in, and that just helped you pull ahead at the end. But in terms of actual scoring from planets and scoring from your board, I didn't do too badly at all.
Yeah.
I think just because of the way that the game plays, and because someone else is picking actions almost, and then you're deciding to follow it or not, the game feels slower than it probably is. So if you start to lag behind, then all you really have to do is get a go fetch mission completed, and you're caught up again. But psychologically, you still feel like you're a little bit behind because it's taken you a while to do that, whereas the actual stats say differently.
Yeah, I quite like secret victory point objectives in games, especially in this one, because I wasn't, like I said, I wasn't the sort of aggressive player. And although Leki, was further behind at the end, during gameplay I was looking at his, tableau of everything he had, and he had all these recruits and he had all these planets, and I was starting to think, oh God, am I doing the wrong idea here? But I did manage to get one of my secret objectives, and in the end, that sort of all added up. So I was like, oh, well, I didn't really have to worry then, because the way I played it worked out for a bit better. Even though like he had a lot more colour on the board, as it were, it looked overwhelming, but it was okay, sort of thing. It's just because somebody looks like they might be winning, they may not be, which is. It keeps you playing, basically, instead of losing hope and going like, oh well, I've lost because everyone else has got all these colours on the board and I don't. It makes it like a bit. I like just like the secret objective thing. It just keeps you in the game. I think it's a lot better.
The perfect example of that was I almost ran out of influence tokens, but they were all just on 2 planets pretty much, and it was great. So no one was going to go after those, but it was just wasted in the end. And so it looked like I had a lot down. It looked great, but it didn't actually account to much in the end.
Yeah, there was lots of like nice little quirks and rules in the game, which meant that you could build up points quite effectively.
I just wanted to talk about the research tree, because I think it's one of the most elegant research systems, tech tree efforts that I've seen. And obviously with it being like a space exploration game, it's not a 4X. I think we've talked about this, but it's not a 4X. It's just an area control game, but it has got that research element. And what you're doing is you're just taking a good and paying you throw a card away. It varies depending on the tech that you're going for, and then you just cover the tech up. It's worth a victory point, but it also gives like a unique thing. And each race's tech tree is different, and they're really quite different. Like I played 2 of the races now. The Screech guys, they're basically like the Tyrannids, the parasites. Yeah, they're like the things from Starship Troopers, aren't they? Kind of. And they were all about sort of numbers in combat and combat. There's a lot of combat stuff in their tech tree, and parasites and spores and stuff. And then the ones I had today were sort of warping around all over the place. I saw the which ones were you, Leki?
Oh, I was the blue guys.
The armoured insects.
Yes.
Oh yeah.
Oh,
Legions.
The legions.
Yes.
Of Demicus or Demica.
Yeah, and they've got completely different tech stuff again, but it's really, really simple. But it's streamlined, but not in a bad way.
It's interesting you say that, because I kept looking at Sam's tech tree and it looked almost identical. So I don't know if there's a couple of like vanilla tech trees in there.
Well, I was the boring, dull faces, the nomads of human nomads or whatever it was.
Well, we all get cloaking.
Yeah, there is some like cloaking and warbots. I don't know if everyone's got them, but there's a couple that are common. But then the ones that are unique are like quite unique. Like the warping one that I had, game changer. The other one that I had let me have the 2 Empire cards.
Was that on your
that
tech
was a
tree?
tech.
That was insane.
That won the game,
Yeah.
I think. So that
because you had how many Empire cards did you score?
I had 4,
Like
but I
that you
scored 3 of them.
Yeah,
but they were
and
quite
like
high
the rest of us
scoring.
scored about 1, and those are big points gains, aren't they?
Yeah. So the I forget what they were called, but the guys that I had, the 2 techs that I went for at the beginning of the game one let you get more of these cards that score objectives, and the other one let you spend those cards to just warp on the board wherever you wanted to go.
Yeah.
Which was just insane as well.
It's a perfect storm.
Yeah. So the tech trees really make the races feel different, because there's a couple of other things on the boards that make them feel different. Like I think the Screech guys can have more bases on their world ship, like stuff like that. And I think we talked about it before, but I do prefer asymmetry.
I do as well. Definitely.
It gives you when you just play a different race next time, and
You
it's
feel
like a
more
different
invested,
game, isn't it?
You feel more invested every time.
I used to think even just a minor bonus, just a minor setup change. But after playing that tonight and seeing like the different race bonuses, if you compare them to Civilization New Dawn, which I was really impressed with, the actual differences between the factions were almost unnoticeable.
Might as well not be there. Some of them.
What's that? Sorry.
They might as well not be there.
Yeah,
of them,
no, you're right.
New Dawn.
Yeah, there was. We'd get through an entire game without even activating some of them, and then, or you'd get someone like France, which would have like a significant bonus, like ongoing bonus. But here, I forgot actually that I had the extra world ship and the extra base slot, I guess, on the world ship where you can build an extra city, sort of thing. So, and that does make a huge difference. But yeah, they still feel quite tight, like you said, the scores were close, and no, it's elegant, it's great looking. I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, definitely, it was a really good game. I was excited to play it, and I wasn't disappointed at all.
What do you think?
Yeah, I really liked it. If the artwork had been a bit more plain, I think I wouldn't have been as into it. It would have been a bit more, I don't know, clinical and boring. But because it just made it aesthetically, it was just nice to play and look at.
But I think because you can see the artwork, it's easy to attribute to like the fact that the theme hits so well because of it. But the mechanics and the way that the story plays out, and the whole game really plays up to the theme in a brilliant way.
Dave and Sam, summary opinions?
I really enjoyed it. It sort of sits on the heavier end of the game, but complexity-wise, it's a little bit simpler, as I mentioned before. So it sort of sits below likes of Eclipse. But I really enjoyed it. I think it offers quite a lot, and it's got quite a few cool mechanics in there. That was cool, not cool. Dave, what do you reckon?
Yeah, it's alright, isn't it?
Great summary.
And we'll be back next week.
Brilliant. So thanks very much for joining us for another instalment of Board Chitless. We're really thankful for all you chit heads that keep coming back each week and having a listen. Please remember to comment if you can on SoundCloud or iTunes and give us a bit of a rating. Thanks very much. We'll see you next time.
Bye.
Bye.